Hey guys, tonight we are heading back to the heart of the ancient world, to the sprawling, powerful, and surprisingly superstitious city of Rome. We're going to explore the Roman relationship with the soul, a relationship that was far more complex and, frankly, more disturbing than you might think. We'll learn that for a Roman, death was not necessarily the end, and that an ancestor was not just a fond memory, but a powerful, demanding, and potentially dangerous member of the family who just happened to be dead. This is a story about the unseen duties, the strange rituals, and the deep anxieties that governed the Roman soul. Now, for our little reality check, the Romans gave us aqueducts, straight roads, and the foundations of Western law. They were pragmatic, organized, and masters of engineering, but they were also deeply superstitious. They believed the world was teeming with spirits, ghosts, and minor deities that had to be constantly placated. Forgetting to leave a little offering of wine for your household ghost could have more serious consequences than forgetting to pay your taxes. It was a complex civilization. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support is the offering that appeases the spirits of the algorithm. And as always, I love seeing where you're joining from. So post your city and local time in the comments. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You are a man of the new Rome, a citizen of the age of Augustus. Your world is one of order, ambition, and practicality. You are a former legionary centurion, having served your 20 years on the cold, misty frontiers of Gaul and Germania. You are a man who understands supply chains, road building, and the unyielding logic of the gladius. Now retired. You have invested your savings wisely in a business that imports grain from Egypt, a trade that is as reliable and essential as the rising of the sun. You live in a clean, modern apartment in a new insula, a tenement block in the city, and you pride yourself on being a rational man, a man who has no time for the old, rustic superstitions of your grandfathers. Your life is orderly, prosperous, and blissfully free of ghosts, that is. Until the lawyer arrives, he is a minor state functionary, and he carries a waxed tablet sealed with a family crest you have not seen since you were a child. He informs you, with a dry, bureaucratic tone, that your great-uncle, Lucius Vipsanius, has died without a direct heir. Lucius was the last of the old, rural branch of your family, a man you barely remember as a strange, reclusive old eccentric, and as his closest living male relative. You are now his sole heir. You have inherited the old family estate, the Villa Vipsania. Your first reaction is not joy, but annoyance. You are a man of the city, of commerce. What use do you have for a crumbling old farmhouse, the lawyer adds, as if as an afterthought? That the villa lies in the Sabine Hills, a rugged, old-fashioned part of the country, and that it has been neglected. He mentions that it has a certain reputation among the locals. You scoff at the idea. Congratulations. You've inherited a large country estate. The bad news is it's a crumbling wreck. It's 2 days' ride from civilization, and it's probably haunted by your grumpy, neglected great-great-grand ghosts. Your plan is simple. You will travel to the villa, have the property assessed, sell it to the first fool willing to buy it, and return to your sensible life in Rome. The journey itself is a journey into the past. You leave the stone-paved, orderly streets of Rome behind, traveling on older, rougher roads that wind through the hills. The grand marble temples are replaced by small, ancient wooden shrines to forgotten local gods. The air itself seems different, heavier, thick with the smell of damp earth and old trees. This is the countryside, a place that, to a city man like you, feels steeped in an older, wilder magic. You stop for the night at a small, rustic inn a few miles from your new property when you tell the innkeeper where you are headed. His cheerful demeanor vanishes. He makes a small, almost imperceptible gesture with his hand. The mano fico, the fig sign to ward off evil, the Villa Vipsania, he says, his voice a low whisper. No one has lived there in many years, not since the old master. Your uncle took to his bed. The fields are fallow, the roof is failing, and the spirits of the place, they are not happy. He leans closer. They say the old family spirits are unfed, and a hungry spirit is an angry spirit. They say you can hear weeping from the house on a moonless night. You thank him for the warning and the wine, dismissing his talk as the ramblings of an ignorant peasant. You're a rational Roman, a man of the modern world. You're pretty sure the spooky noises are just rats. Very large, very angry, possibly spectral rats. The next afternoon, you arrive. The villa is worse than you imagined. It stands on a low hill, surrounded by overgrown olive groves. The stone wall surrounding the property has crumbled in places. The great wooden gate hangs from a single, rusted hinge. The villa itself is large, but it is a picture of decay. Plaster has fallen from the walls in great sheets, revealing the rough stonework beneath. The window shutters are broken, like vacant eyes in a skull. The place is silent, save for the wind whistling through the cypress trees. It does not feel like a home. It feels like a tomb. As you approach the great front door, it creaks open. A single figure emerges. He is an old man, ancient, his back bent like a gnarled olive branch, his face a mask of deep wrinkles. He wears the simple, rough tunic of a servant. He introduces himself as Decimus, the caretaker. He explains that he was born in this house, as was his father before him, and that he is the only one who has remained. Out of a sense of duty to the Vipsani name, the house has been waiting for a new paterfamilias, he says, his old eyes looking at you with a mixture of hope and fear. As the new head of this branch of the family, you have inherited more than just land and a crumbling building. You have inherited the sacra familia, the sacred duties to the family's spirits, a responsibility you never wanted. You brush aside his concerns and instruct him to show you the house. He lights a small, flickering oil lamp, its light feeble against the growing dusk, and leads you inside. The moment you step over the threshold, you understand the innkeeper's fear. The air inside is cold, colder than the evening air outside, and it is thick with the smell of damp. Decay and a profound, suffocating neglect. The great atrium, the heart of a Roman home, is a ruin of peeling frescoes and dusty, cobweb-draped furniture. You are about to ask Decimus to show you the main living quarters when a sudden, inexplicable gust of wind rushes through the atrium. Though the great front door is now closed, it is a cold, dead wind, and it carries with it a faint, whispering sound. The single flame of the old servant's oil lamp gutters dances wildly for a moment, and then is extinguished, plunging the great hall into absolute impenetrable darkness. Decimus lets out a terrified, strangled gasp. You stand frozen in the blackness, your practical, rational Roman mind struggling to comprehend what just happened. The house is silent again, but it is not an empty silence. It is a watchful one, and you feel, for the first time, a cold prickle of fear, a primal dread that tells you that you are not alone in this house. The spirits of your forgotten family are here. And they are, as the innkeeper said, not happy. Decimus, the old caretaker, fumbles in the darkness. His breath a series of short, terrified gasps. You hear the scrape of his flint and steel. Once, twice. A pathetic spark that fails to catch. They do not like the light, he whispers, his voice trembling. They have grown accustomed to the dark. Nonsense. Old man. You say, your voice sharper than you intend. You are a man of action, not of shadows. You brush past him. Your military training taking over. You know the layout of a traditional villa. You move with purpose through the darkness to where the household's main supply of oil and lamps would be kept. Your hands find a flask of oil and a new wick. A few moments later, you have a fresh lamp lit. It's steady. Golden flame pushing back the oppressive darkness. The old servant looks at you with a kind of reverence, as if you have performed a small miracle. The new paterfamilias brings light to the house, he murmurs. You dismiss his reverence with a wave of your hand and begin your tour. The villa is a monument to decay. Decimus leads you from room to room, his lamp casting dancing shadows on the peeling. Water-stained frescoes? You see scenes of gods and heroes, their painted faces now obscured by webs and grime. You walk through the grand dining room, the triclinium, where the couches are collapsing, their stuffing spilling out like entrails. You see the library, where scrolls have tumbled from their niches, some of them unraveled and chewed by mice. The wisdom of the ages now just bedding for vermin. The villa is a classic fixer-upper. You'll need a new roof, new plaster, new shutters, and probably a young priest to drive out the legion of grumpy ghosts currently squatting in the atrium. Your great-uncle, the Master Lucius. He did not care for the things of this world in his final years. Decimus explains, his voice a sad apology for the state of the house. His mind was on other matters. He neglected his duties. Clearly, you say dryly, running a hand over a dusty table. He neglected the roofers and the plasterers. No, master, Decimus says, his voice dropping to a fearful whisper. His greater neglect was to the gods. He leads you back into the main atrium. In one corner is a niche set into the wall, a feature of every proper Roman home. It is the lararium, the household shrine. In your own clean, functional apartment in Rome, you have a small, simple one where you make a perfunctory offering of incense once a week to satisfy tradition. But a great family villa like this should have a magnificent one. What you see makes you stop cold. It is a scene of profound and shocking desecration. The shrine is thick with cobwebs, the painted background faded and peeling. On a small pedestal stand 3 small bronze statues, now so covered in a black. Grimy patina that their features are almost unrecognizable. The small offering dish before them is filled with dust and a dead spider, the eternal flame that should burn in a small lamp before it has been extinguished for what looks like decades. This is not just neglect. This is a spiritual wasteland. Decimus shuffles forward, his old hands tracing the outline of the niche. Here is the source of the house's sickness, he whispers. The guardians have been forgotten. They have been starved. He begins your first true lesson in the duties you have inherited. He points to the 2 smaller figures on the outside of the pedestal. They are depicted as youthful, energetic young men, wearing short, swirling tunics and carrying drinking horns. The lares familiares, he says. The spirits of the first ancestors of the Vipsani family. They are the guardians of this very house, this very land. They keep the family line strong and protect the home from fire and ruin. All they ask in return is a little wine, a little incense, a little memory. Your uncle denied them even that. So, your household is guarded by the spirits of your great-great-grandfathers, who are depicted as 2 young guys in short skirts doing a dance. Ancestor worship is apparently more lively than you thought. He then points to the central, more stately figure, a man in a toga. The genius of the master of the house, he says. The life spirit of your great-uncle. His spirit is gone now, to the underworld. But you are the new paterfamilias. It is your genius that should be honored here now, to protect you and guide you. And where are the penates, you ask? Remembering the term from your childhood lessons, they are not shown. Decimus explains. They are the spirits of the pantry, of the storeroom. Their presence is in the food we eat, the wine we drink. They are honored here, at the central hearth, and when they are neglected. The pantry becomes empty and the food turns to dust in your mouth. The old servant's theology is a direct and terrifying one. The strange occurrences in the house are not the work of some outside demon or a wandering ghost. The haunting is an inside job. The very guardian spirits of the family, starved of their ritual offerings, have grown sad, then sullen, and finally, angry. The cold spots, the whispers, the gust of wind that extinguished the lamp. It is them. It is your own ancestors, your own household gods, making their displeasure known. They are no longer protecting the house, they are the source of its growing misery. They have been waiting for you, Decimus says, his watery old eyes pleading with you. As the new master, the duty is now yours. You must clean the shrine. You must make the offerings. You must show them they are remembered. You must restore the Pax Deorum, the peace of the gods, to this house. You are a man of the legions, a man of logistics. You believe in what you can see and touch. You want to dismiss all of this as the superstitious ramblings of an old, fearful man. The strange noises are the wind and the broken roof tiles. The cold spots are drafts. The feeling of being watched is a trick of your own mind in this creepy, decaying mansion. You spend the next few days taking a practical inventory of the villa, trying to ignore the oppressive atmosphere of the place. You catalog the broken furniture, the leaking roof, the crumbling walls, calculating the immense cost of making the estate profitable again. You decide the best course of action is to sell it as quickly as possible, even at a loss. You set up your writing tools in your great-uncle's dusty study to draft a letter to your business agent in Rome. The room is high-ceilinged, with shelves lining the walls, all of them empty save for a few worthless, damaged scrolls. On one high shelf sits a single, heavy, earthenware pot, a decorative piece of some kind. As you are writing, you hear a soft scraping sound from above. You look up at the shelf. The heavy pot is moving. It wobbles for a moment on the edge of the shelf, as if pushed by an unseen hand. Then it topples over and crashes to the stone floor, not 3 feet from where you are sitting, shattering into 100 pieces. You leap to your feet, your heart hammering in your chest. The room is still. There was no earthquake. The shelf is solid. There is no rational explanation. Decimus rushes into the room, his face white with terror. He looks at the shattered pot, then at you. A warning, he gasps. The Penates, the guardians of the household goods, they are angry that you plan to sell their home. They are showing you their power. You stare at the broken pottery on the floor. A large pot just flew off a shelf and tried to assassinate you. The old servant is convinced it's the angry pantry ghosts. You're starting to think that maybe, just maybe, he has a point. Your pragmatic skepticism, which has been your shield your entire adult life, has just been dealt a significant blow. You walk back out into the great, silent atrium. You stand before the dusty, neglected lararium. You look at the grimy bronze figures of your ancestors, the dancing lairs, their faces obscured by the filth of decades. The house is silent, but it is a silence that feels alive, watchful, and deeply unhappy. Your plan to simply sell the estate and walk away now seems like a foolish and dangerous fantasy. You have not just inherited a property, you have inherited a responsibility. A responsibility to a host of angry, forgotten spirits who are now, it seems, your legal wards. Decimus is at your side. Master, he pleads softly. Just a small offering. Clean the shrine, a little wine, a little cake of spelt. Show them that a paterfamilias has returned to the house. Please. You look at the shrine, then at the terrified old man, then back at the shards of the pot in your study. You are a Roman soldier. You are a man of reason. And you are, for the first time in your life, truly afraid. You let out a long, slow breath of resignation. Bring me a cloth and a bowl of clean water. You say to Decimus, you will clean the shrine. You will make the offering. You feel like a fool doing it. But you also feel, with a chilling certainty, that you have no other choice. You take the damp cloth from the old servant's trembling hand and reach up to wipe away the first layer of grime from the forgotten face of your family's god. Following the old servant Decimus's desperate plea, you agree to make the offering. You feel foolish, like a hardened legionary playing along with a child's game. But the image of the heavy pot toppling from its shelf is still fresh in your mind. With a sigh of resignation, you set to work. You have Decimus bring you a clean bowl and fresh water. You take a linen cloth and, with a strange and formal reverence you did not know you possessed, you begin to clean the household shrine. The grime of decades comes away in black streaks, revealing the bronze beneath, the small statues of the two dancing lairs. The guardians of the house emerge from their filthy cocoon. You clean the offering dish and the small pedestal. When the shrine is clean, you perform the offering itself. You pour a small libation of good red wine into the dish. You place a small cake of spelt flour beside it. You even, at Decimus's quiet urging, light a stick of incense. It's sweet, unfamiliar smoke curling up towards the ceiling. You stand back, feeling self-conscious and out of place. Decimus, however, is beaming, his old face alight with a profound relief. For 3 days, a strange and welcome peace settles over the villa. The oppressive coldness in the atrium seems to lift. The house feels quieter, the air lighter. You sleep without dreams for the first time since you arrived. You begin to relax. Your rational mind reasserts itself. It was all just a product of your own unease in this old, decaying house. The cleaning, the simple act of imposing order on a small corner of the chaos, has calmed your own mind, and therefore calmed the house. The falling pot was just a coincidence, a tremor in the old floorboards. You were starting to think that all these ghosts really wanted was a bit of wine and a snack. You were wrong. On the 4th night, the haunting returns. But it is different now. It is no longer the vague, sorrowful neglect of the lairs. It is something else. Something more active, more malevolent. It begins with a sound. You are in your bed, drifting off to sleep. When you hear it from the floor above you, it is the sound of something heavy being dragged slowly, deliberately, across the stone floor. A scraping, dragging noise that raises the hairs on your arms. Then comes the sound of weeping. Not a theatrical wail, but a low, miserable, hopeless sobbing that seems to seep through the very stones of the house. You tell yourself it is the wind. It is the house settling. But the sounds are too specific, too filled with intent. The next night, they come again. This time accompanied by a new horror. A soft, sibilant whispering that seems to come from just outside your chamber door. It's too faint to make out the words, but you can hear your own name being repeated, over and over again. A sound like dry leaves skittering across pavement. Your sleep is shattered. You are plagued by nightmares of a new and terrible kind. You dream of shadowy, indistinct figures with hungry, hollow eyes, their forms thin and wraith-like. They are always just at the edge of your vision, watching you, whispering. You wake up with your heart pounding, the ghostly whispers still echoing in your ears. The physical disturbances also change. It is no longer a pot falling from a shelf. It is smaller, more personal, more unnerving. You will leave your stylus in a specific spot on your desk, only to find it on the floor in the opposite corner of the room. You will bar your chamber door at night, only to find it swinging gently open in the morning. After a week of this escalating torment, you confront Decimus. You describe the new sounds, the nightmares, the whispers, the old servant's face, which had been so full of hope after your offering. now crumples into a mask of pure terror. "Master, this is not the work of the lairs," he says, his voice a terrified whisper. "They are the good folk, the guardians. They would show their displeasure, but they are not cruel. They are your kin. This is something else. By waking the lairs with your offering, you have lit a lamp in a dark house, and you have attracted the attention of the other things that were already inside." He then explains to you another, darker chapter of Roman belief about the soul. He tells you about the different kinds of spirits of the dead. The manes, he explains, are the collective spirits of our ancestors, the ones who are at peace. They are the good gods to whom we owe our respect and our offerings at their tombs. The lares are a part of them, the specific ancestors who guard the home, but not all spirits are at peace. He continues, his voice dropping lower. There are the larvae. These are the ghosts of truly wicked men, criminals and oath breakers, whose souls are punished in the underworld, but whose malevolence can still touch our world. To cause madness and disease, he shudders, but worse than the larvae, master, are the lemures. He tells you that the lemures are the most tragic and dangerous of all the spirits. They are the homeless, wandering ghosts of those who were denied a proper burial, or who died before their time by violence, by accident, or in childhood. They have no tomb to call home, no family to give them offerings. They are trapped between worlds, filled with the cold, hungry envy for the warmth and life of the living. They are the unhoused dead, Decimus says, his eyes wide, and they are drawn to houses where the spiritual defenses are weak. This villa, it was neglected for so long. The lairs grew weak. The sacred fire went out. The spiritual walls crumbled, and the lemures drifted in, seeking shelter. Now that you have reawakened the house's sacredness, you have disturbed them. They are angry that you are trying to reclaim this place. So there are the good, family ancestor ghosts, then there are the bad, evil person ghosts, and then there are the homeless, hungry, and deeply annoying ghosts, who are basically supernatural squatters. It's a complicated spectral society. His explanation, as fantastical as it sounds, fits the facts with a chilling precision. The first haunting was a sorrowful neglect. This new haunting feels like the bitter, angry jealousy of a vagrant being thrown out of his squat. You try to cling to your skepticism, but it is a shield full of holes. Your experience as a soldier and a merchant has taught you about the world of men. It has not prepared you for this. The world is far stranger and more crowded than you ever believed. Future scholars will debate whether these beliefs are psychological or social phenomena. But for you, in this cold, dark house, the distinction is meaningless. The terror is real. That night, the haunting reaches its climax. You are in your study, trying to work on the estate's accounts by the light of a single oil lamp. The house is deathly quiet. Then, you hear it, the whisper of your own name. Lucius. Seeming to come from the dark hallway just outside your door, you freeze, your quill hovering over the parchment. The sound is clear, undeniable. A wave of intense cold floods the room, a cold so profound it extinguishes all warmth. The flame of your lamp flickers, shrinks, and turns a sickly blue. It does not go out, it just burns low, casting a ghostly dim light. And in that dim light, you see the shadow that the lamp casts of you on the wall. But it is wrong. It is distorted, elongated, and it seems to be moving on its own. It is a great, hunched, vaguely human shape, a shadow of a creature that is not in the room with you. It writhes on the wall, a silent, menacing dance of pure darkness. You are frozen in your chair, every muscle in your body locked by a primal fear beyond anything you have ever known on any battlefield. You cannot move. You cannot breathe. You can only stare at the terrible, living shadow on the wall and listen to the faint, sibilant whisper of your name, a sound like a snake in the darkness. calling to you from just beyond the door. The house is not just unhappy. It is infested, and you are no longer sure it is a house you can ever leave. You stand frozen in the study, your heart a frantic drum against your ribs. The monstrous, distorted shadow on the wall writhes, and the sibilant whisper of your name, Lucius, seems to come from the very air around you. Your legionary training, your years of facing down painted barbarians in the forest of Gaul, had prepared you for any worldly threat. It did not prepare you for this. Decimus, the old caretaker, finds you there moments later, your face as pale as parchment, when you tell him what you saw, what you heard. He is not surprised, he simply nods. His old face grim, the house groans under their weight. He says, the lemures, the hungry ones, they know a new master has come. They are testing you, probing for weakness. What do I do, you ask? Your voice a hoarse whisper. Your pragmatic skepticism has been shattered. You are a believer now, a terrified convert to this world of unseen things, the household gods. The Lares are your first line of defense. Decimus explains, your offering pleased them, but they have been starved for decades. Their strength is weak, and they are your kin. They will not fight the spirits of other. Unrelated dead unless their own master, the paterfamilias, has the proper authority. Your authority is weak because you have neglected your other duties. He tells you that your power as head of the family does not just come from the Lares in the house, it comes from the entire lineage of your ancestors, from the collective spirit of your clan, the Manes. They are the good spirits, the benevolent dead who rest peacefully in their tombs. Their strength, their approval, is the foundation of your spiritual authority before you can fight the vagrant ghosts in your house. Decimus says, you must first pay respect to your own ghostly family. You must go to the tombs, you must announce yourself, you must honor the Manes, you must ask for their strength. The new plan to get the homeless ghosts out of your house is to go and ask your great-great-grandpa's ghost for help. It's basically a supernatural family intervention. And so, you make a decision. You will not sell this cursed house. You will reclaim it. You and Decimus bar the doors and shutter the windows of the villa, leaving it to its whispering occupants for now. You then begin the 2-day journey back towards Rome. Your destination is not the city itself, but the great Appian Way, the ancient road leading south from its gates. For centuries, the wealthy and powerful families of Rome have buried their dead along these great roads. Outside the city's sacred boundary, the sides of the Appian Way are a veritable city of the dead, lined with tombs of every shape and size grand, temple-like mausoleums, simple stone altars, and subterranean burial chambers. It's the most prestigious and most crowded neighborhood for dead people in the world. Decimus guides you to the tomb of your ancestors, the Vipsani. It is an old tomb, built in the time of the Republic. It is a modest but dignified structure of dark tufa stone, with a simple columned facade and a heavy stone door, like the villa. It shows signs of long neglect. Weeds grow from cracks in the stone, and the inscription bearing your family name is faded and covered in lichen. This is the source of your authority, Decimus says, his voice filled with reverence. This is the house of your Manes. They are not angry, like the Lares. They are just sleeping and forgotten. We must wake them. We must feed them. He instructs you on the proper rites. This is not a grand public festival, but a private, familial duty. You have brought the necessary offerings, a flask of good wine, a jug of milk, a small pot of honey, and a basket of simple spelt cakes and fresh flowers. Your first task, as with the Lorarium, is to show respect through labor. You and Decimus spend the morning cleaning the tomb. You pull the weeds. You scrub the lichen from the inscribed names of your ancestors. Names you have not thought of in years? Gaius Vipsanius, Marcus Vipsanius. your grandfather, your great-grandfather. As you clean their names, you feel a strange sense of connection, of belonging, when the tomb is clean. The offerings begin. You find the small, terracotta offering tube set into the ground before the tomb's entrance. A pipe leading down into the burial chamber itself. Decimus explains that this is the channel through which you can send nourishment directly to the thirsty spirits below. You perform the libation. You pour out a measure of wine, watching as it disappears into the dark earth. Then you pour the milk, a symbol of life and nourishment. Finally, you pour a spoonful of honey, an offering of sweetness for the spirits. You're leaving a perfectly good bottle of wine and some nice cakes at a tomb. You're starting to realize that being the head of a Roman family involves spending a lot of money on snacks for ghosts. You then lay out the cakes and the flowers before the tomb's great stone door, and then comes the most important part. You must speak to them. You stand before the tomb, feeling foolish at first. But Decimus's insistent gaze gives you strength. You announce yourself. I am Lucius Vipsanius, you say, your voice strange in the quiet air. Son of Titus, grandson of Marcus, I am the new paterfamilias. I have returned. You formally apologize for the years of neglect. You tell them that they are not forgotten, that the family line continues. You then ask for their blessing and their aid. Lend me your strength, O benevolent manes. You plead. Help me to reclaim our family home from the unclean spirits that have infested it. Help me to restore our family's honor. As you speak the words, a strange thing happens. A feeling of profound peace settles over you. The constant, gnawing anxiety that has plagued you since you inherited the villa begins to recede. It is replaced by a sense of solidity, of being anchored. You feel as if you are no longer one man, but the current representative of a long, unbroken line stretching back for centuries. When your prayer is finished, a small white dove, a bird of Venus and a symbol of peace, flutters down from a cypress tree and lands for a moment on the roof of the tomb. It coos once, then takes flight again. Disappearing into the blue sky, Decimus gasps, his hand flying to his mouth. A sign, he whispers, his eyes wide. A sign from the gods. The Manes have heard you. They have accepted your offering. They will help you. You, the skeptic, the pragmatic soldier, want to dismiss it as a coincidence, but you cannot. The feeling of peace, the sudden appearance of the bird, it feels like an answer. You have performed your duty. You have reestablished the pact between the living and the dead of your family. You and Decimus leave the tomb as the sun begins to set. You feel a new sense of strength, of authority. You are no longer just a frightened man in a haunted house. You are the paterfamilias of the Vipsani, and you have the backing of generations of your ancestors. The battle is not over. The lemures, the hungry ghosts, are still squatting in your villa, but you are no longer facing them alone. You have rallied your spiritual family. Now, you must return home and perform the necessary rites to exorcise the unwelcome strangers from your house, to reclaim your ancestral home once and for all. You return to the Villa Vipsania with a new sense of purpose. Your journey to the family tomb has anchored you. You are no longer just a terrified man in a crumbling house. You are the paterfamilias, the spiritual head of your lineage, and you have come to reclaim your ancestral home. Your newfound confidence, however, does not impress the current, uninvited residents. The haunting, in fact, seems to worsen. It is as if your rites to the Manes have disturbed the hornet's nest. The whispers at night are louder, more insistent. The dragging sound from the floor above is more frequent. Small objects are not just moved, they are thrown. A cup will slide off a table and shatter on the floor. You feel a constant, prickling sensation on the back of your neck. The undeniable feeling of being watched by unseen. Malevolent eyes. They are angry, Decimus says, his voice trembling as he sweeps up the shards of another broken pot. You have brought the light of your ancestors back into this house, and the creatures of shadow do not like it. They are fighting for their territory. Then we will fight back. You declare, your soldiers' instincts taking over. What must be done? Is there a rite? A spell? The old caretaker nods grimly. There is a rite, he says. An ancient one, a dangerous one. It is not a rite of appeasement. Like the one for your ancestors, it is a rite of expulsion, an exorcism. It is called the Lemuria. You have heard of the Lemuria. It is a strange, archaic festival, a time in May when the temples are closed and no one dares to get married. It is considered an unlucky, unclean time, a time when the veil between the worlds is thinnest and the ghosts of the restless dead walk the earth most freely. The festival is for the whole of Rome. Decimus explains, but the rite itself, the private rite performed in the home, can be done at any time of great need. And our need is great. It is the one sure way to drive out the hungry ghosts. He begins to explain the bizarre and deeply disturbing procedure, and your modern pragmatic mind rebels with every word. It must be performed by you, the paterfamilias, and you must perform it alone. He says, it must be done at midnight, when the spirits are strongest. He continues, you must be barefoot, and you must make a specific sign with your hand, the mano fico with your thumb between your first two fingers. To ward off any direct attack, you must first wash your hands 3 times in pure spring water. So far, it sounds strange, but not insane. Then comes the next part. You must then take a handful of black beans, he says, his voice dropping to a whisper. You place them in your mouth. You do not chew them. You do not swallow them. You then walk through the house, from back to front, and you must not look behind you. No matter what you hear, with each step, you spit 1 bean out over your shoulder, and you say the words, with these beans, I redeem me and mine. You stare at him. Spitting beans. This is the great weapon against the spirits tormenting your house. The black bean is a food of the dead. Decimus explains, seeing your disbelief. It holds a powerful magic by casting them behind you. You are giving the Lemures a phantom offering, a ransom. They are hungry. They will stop to gather the beans, and their attention will be diverted. You do this 9 times. For the 9 is a number of power. So, black beans are the official currency for bribing ghosts. It's a very specific and surprisingly affordable form of supernatural payment. You make a note to stock up. When you have cast all the beans, he goes on, you must make a great noise. You must clash bronze pots or cymbals together, a sound that terrifies and confuses the spirits. And then, you must say the final words. 9 times you must say them. Facing the front door. Manes exit paternae, spirits of my fathers. Depart. You translate. A new confusion rising. But Decimus, you said these were not my ancestors. Why would I command my own manes, whom I have just honored, to leave? The old servant shuffles his feet, entering into a debate that will one day occupy classical scholars. It is a respectful way of speaking. Master a euphemism. To call the Lemures by their true name is to draw their full attention. To acknowledge them, it is too dangerous. So we address them politely, as ancestral spirits. Even as we are casting them out, it is an ancient custom. The words are what matter. You are a man who has commanded a century of Roman legionaries. Men who could conquer a Gallic hill fort with brutal efficiency. And now you are being told that to conquer your own home, you must walk around barefoot in the dark, spitting beans and banging pots, and then politely ask your ancestors to leave. When you really mean the angry ghosts who are not your ancestors at all, it is the most ridiculous battle plan you have ever heard. It is the old way. Decimus says simply, as if that explains everything. It is the only way I know. For a full day, you wrestle with the decision. Your mind screams that this is madness, the superstitious ritual of an uneducated peasant. But then you remember the moving shadow in your study. You remember the pot flying from the shelf. You remember the sibilant whisper of your own name in the darkness. Your Roman reason is at war with a primal fear you did not know you possessed. And in the end, fear wins. You have tried nothing, and it has failed. The spirits, whatever they are real, and they are growing bolder. You will perform the rite. You spend the day in preparation. You fast, eating only a single piece of bread. You perform a ritual washing. You have Decimus procure the necessary items: a bag of dry, black beans, and 2 heavy bronze plates from the dilapidated kitchen. As evening falls, a new and profound tension settles over the house. You can almost feel the spirits waiting, watching, aware that something is about to happen. Midnight arrives. The house is completely dark, completely silent. You stand in the atrium, the heart of the house. You are barefoot, the cold stone floor shocking to your skin. Decimus has already retreated to his small servants' quarters. Having barred his door from the inside, he has made it clear he wants no part of this. He is terrified of what might be stirred up. You are completely alone. Before you is a bowl of spring water. You wash your hands 3 times. As instructed, you make the mano fico with your left hand, your knuckles white. In your right hand, you hold the pouch of black beans. Your heart is pounding. Every small sound, the creak of a floorboard, the sighing of the wind outside is magnified, twisted into a sound of menace. You take a deep breath. You open the pouch. Take out a small handful of the beans, 9 of them. You have counted them carefully and you put them in your mouth. They are dry and taste of dust and earth. You are ready. You take your first barefoot step into the darkness of your own home. A reluctant exorcist armed with legumes and a desperate, fragile hope. Midnight. The house is a black ocean of silence. You stand in the center of the great, dusty atrium. A solitary barefoot figure. The fate of your household resting on the strange ritual you are about to perform. The air is cold and carries the weight of a century of neglect. You take a deep breath, the air tasting of dust and damp stone. You place a small handful of the hard, dry, black beans into your mouth. Their earthy taste is unpleasant. A mouthful of the grave itself, following the instructions of Decimus. You turn your back to the front door and begin your slow, deliberate walk through the dark heart of your own home. You carry no lamp. Your only light is the faint, ghostly moonlight that filters through the high, grimy windows of the atrium. Every sense is heightened. The feeling of the cold. Uneven stone floor beneath your bare feet is a constant, shocking reality. Every creak of a floorboard above, every sigh of the wind in the broken eaves, sounds like a footstep, a whisper, a breath from an unseen throat. You force yourself to walk, your legionary discipline warring with a primal fear that threatens to lock your joints. You walk from the atrium towards the back of the house, heading for the kitchens. As you pass the doorway to the study where you saw the shadow, the air grows intensely cold, a pocket of winter in the mild night. You can feel a presence there, a concentration of misery and malice. You fight the overwhelming urge to turn your head, to look. Decimus's warning echoes in your mind no matter what you hear. Do not look back. You reach the far wall of the kitchens. You stop. You take one of the beans from your mouth, and with a flick of your thumb, you cast it over your shoulder into the darkness behind you. You hear it skitter across the stone floor. Hoc ego mito, his redimo mece meosque fabis. You recite. Your voice is strange, formal whisper in the profound silence. I send this with these beans. I redeem me and mine. You take another step, then another. The walk through the house is an eternity. With each step, you feel the unseen presences gathering behind you. You do not see them, but you can feel them. A rustling sound, a soft, shuffling noise, like dry leaves being dragged across the floor. They are following you. They are gathering the beans you cast for them. You reach the base of the grand staircase. You spit the second bean over your shoulder. His redimo mek meosk fabis, the whispering starts. Your name. Lucius. A faint, dry hiss, like snakes in the walls. You clench your fists, your knuckles white. You keep walking. You pass the dining room, the triclinium, its couches like sleeping, dust-covered beasts in the gloom. The air here is thick with the scent of phantom rot, of spilled wine and meals that were never finished. You cast the third bean. The whispers grow louder, joined by a faint, sorrowful weeping. Sorrowful. You walk on, your bare feet patting softly on the cold stone. This is a ritual of liminality, a state between states. You are a master of a house you do not control, a priest of a rite you do not understand, a living man walking a prescribed path through the world of the dead. Fourth bean, fifth, sixth. With each one you cast, the feeling of the procession behind you grows stronger. You can feel their cold hunger, their bitter envy. They are the lemurs, the forgotten, the unhoused, and you are their only focus in this dark, silent world. You cast the seventh bean. You hear a soft, metallic clink from a room to your left. A dropped coin, a moved goblet. You force yourself not to react. You cast the eighth bean. The whispering of your name is now clear, seeming to come from just over your shoulder. You feel a cold breath on the back of your neck. Every instinct in your body screams at you to turn, to confront the thing that follows you, but you master the fear. You keep walking. You have now crossed the atrium and are approaching the great front door. You stop. You take the ninth and final bean from your mouth and cast it over your shoulder. His redimo mek meosk fabis. You have paid the ransom. Now comes the second act, the expulsion. You reach down and grab the two heavy bronze plates you had placed by the door. You take a deep breath, and you smash them together with all your might. The sound is a deafening, jarring, brutal clang that shatters the silence of the house. It is a sound of pure, violent noise, a sound of the living world, of the forge and the battlefield. A sound that does not belong in this quiet, spectral space. You clash them together again and again. Clang, 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 and the house reacts. The whispers behind you rise into a collective, high-pitched wail, a sound of pain and outrage. It is the sound of 100 miserable souls crying out as they are scourged by the holy. Protective noise of the bronze. You feel the oppressive cold begin to recede, the hateful presence shrinking back from the assault of the sound. When you can no longer lift your arms, you let the bronze plates fall to the floor. A new kind of silence descends, not the watchful, waiting silence of before, but an empty one. Now, for the final command. You stand facing the great, barred front door, the threshold between your house and the world. You raise your voice, no longer a whisper, but a clear, authoritative command, as if you are a centurion addressing his legion. Manes exit paterni. You shout into the darkness. Spirits of my fathers, depart. You say it again, and again. 9 times you repeat the strange, formal, and polite command of banishment. Your voice grows stronger with each repetition, filled with the authority of the paterfamilias you have now become. When you speak the 9th and final command, a profound peace settles over the villa. The air is no longer cold. The feeling of being watched is gone. The house is empty. It is just a house. An old, crumbling, dusty house, but nothing more. You stand there in the doorway, barefoot, your body trembling with exhaustion and the aftershocks of fear. But you are alone. You have faced the hungry ghosts of your new home. You have performed their strange, ancient rite. And you have won as the first pale gray light of dawn begins to filter through the grime of the windows. You slide the great wooden bar across the front door, sealing it. You walk through the now peaceful halls back to your chamber. You fall onto your bed and into the first deep, dreamless, and truly restful sleep you have had since you first set foot in this troubled place. You have performed a supernatural eviction with beans and loud noises. You make a mental note to write a strongly worded letter to your great-uncle's spirit about the state he left the property in. The immediate threat is gone. But your journey into the disturbing beliefs about the Roman soul is far from over. In the weeks following the strange midnight ritual of the Lemuria, a profound and lasting peace settles over the Villa Vipsania. The silence is no longer a watchful, menacing thing. It is simply silence. The unnatural cold spots are gone. The whispers and dragging sounds have ceased. You sleep soundly through the night, your dreams untroubled by hungry shadows. The exorcism, as bizarre as it was, seems to have worked, with the spiritual sickness of the house cured. You turn to its physical ailments, you hire local workmen, and under your direction, the slow work of restoration begins. You repair the leaking roof of the atrium. You have the crumbling plaster chipped away and replaced with fresh, clean lime. You mend the broken furniture. Slowly, the house begins to feel less like a tomb and more like a home. You have taken command of the property, not just as its owner, but as its paterfamilias, its guardian. You even find yourself tending to the small household shrine, the lararium, each morning, leaving a small offering of wine and a prayer, an act that now feels less like a superstitious chore and more like a quiet, respectful duty. One day, a visitor arrives from Rome. It is your old friend, Marcus, a man you served with briefly in the army before he left the legions to pursue a life of scholarship. He is a student of philosophy, a man whose mind is filled with the logic of the Greeks, and he has come to see your new life as a country gentleman. You greet him warmly, overjoyed to see a familiar face from your old, rational world that evening. Sitting in the courtyard of the slowly healing villa, you tell him everything. You describe the state of the house when you arrived, the strange occurrences, the warnings of the old servant Decimus, and finally, the bizarre, barefoot, bean-spitting ritual you performed to cleanse the house of its ghostly inhabitants. You expect him to be shocked, perhaps even a little frightened. Instead, Marcus simply smiles, a look of fond, intellectual amusement in his eyes. "Ah," he says, swirling the wine in his cup. "The lame years, the old fears. It is fascinating how they linger in the countryside. Your philosopher friend from Rome has come to visit. You're excited to tell him about your harrowing battle with an army of hungry ghosts. He's excited to tell you why ghosts aren't real and are actually just a manifestation of an imbalanced psyche. You do not believe me?" You ask, a little defensively. "I believe you." Marcus says gently, "I believe you experience these things, but the cause, that is a matter for philosophy, not for superstition. The soul is not the simple, needy creature your servant imagines." And so, he begins your next lesson, a journey into the philosophical understanding of the soul, a world away from the folk beliefs you have been immersed in. He explains the ideas of the great Greek thinkers, the Stoics and the Epicureans, whose philosophies are now so popular among the educated elite in Rome. You must first distinguish, he says, between the anima and the animus. The anima is the life force, the breath. A plant has it. A dog has it. You and I have it. It is what makes the body live. At death, it simply dissipates. Like breath on a cold day, it is not personal. It does not become a ghost. The animus, he continues, is the soul of the mind. It is your reason, your intellect, your personality. The Stoics believe it is a part of the Logos, the divine fire or reason that governs the universe. A spark of God within you when you die. That spark may survive for a time, but it eventually returns to the great fire from which it came. It does not linger in a house. Weeping because it was not given a snack, he offers you another. Even more radical view? That of the Epicureans. Our poet Lucretius argued this most beautifully. Marcus says, the soul, both anima and animus, is made of atoms. Just like the body, they are just smaller, finer, more mobile atoms. At death, when the vessel of the body is broken, the soul atoms simply disperse. There is no afterlife, no underworld, no hungry ghosts. There is only a peaceful, eternal oblivion. Is that not a more comforting thought than your servants crowded? Miserable spirit world. Marcus explains that your soul is made of special, tiny, round soul atoms. But when you die, they just float away. It's a very neat and tidy explanation, and much less stressful than the whole hungry ghosts and underworld bureaucracy model. But what of the spirits I honored, you ask? The lares, the mains, a matter of pietas. Marcus replies smoothly. Pietas is our duty, our respect for our family, our country, and the gods. We honor our ancestors to honor the memory of their lives and the continuity of our family. It is a social and familial duty. When I make an offering at my family tomb during the Parentalia, I am not feeding a ghost. I am honoring the legacy of my grandfather. The ritual is for the living, to remind us of our place in the world. It is not a transaction with the dead. His words are cool, rational balm. They explain everything so neatly. The sounds you heard were the wind. The cold spots were drafts. The falling pot was a tremor. And the whispers. The moving shadow. They were the projections of your own animus. Your own mind, stressed and agitated by the unfamiliar. Spooky old house. The Lemuria ritual worked, he would argue, not because it drove out spirits, but because it was a powerful act of suggestion that calmed your own troubled mind. By performing the ancient rite, you convinced yourself that the house was clean. And so, the haunting ceased. So, either your house was actually haunted by ancient, malevolent spirits, or you were just very, very stressed out. You're not sure which is more embarrassing. You are left caught between two irreconcilable worlds. The world of your direct, terrifying experience, and the world of your friend's elegant. Rational philosophy, you cannot deny what you felt, the palpable presence of malice in the darkness, but you also cannot deny the powerful logic of Marcus's explanations. And what of Decimus? You ask your friend, does he have a divine spark of logos? Is his soul made of atoms too? Marcus hesitates for a moment, a flicker of Roman class consciousness in his eyes. Of course, he says, a little too quickly. All men possess a soul, but his hesitation plants a new question in your mind. All this philosophy, this talk of the rational animus and the divine spark, it is the luxury of the educated, of the elite. You, Marcus, your great-uncle Lucius, you have souls that are worthy of debate. But what of the countless others? The servants, the slaves, the common folk who made up the backbone of the Roman world. What were the beliefs about their souls? Did they become honored mains? Or were they all destined to become the hungry? Anonymous lemures. Your friend Marcus leaves the next day, returning to his world of books and reasoned debate in Rome. You are left alone again in the great, quiet villa, but now you are haunted by a new kind of uncertainty. The primal fear of ghosts has been replaced by a more complex, philosophical doubt. You stand before your clean, well-tended lararium, an offering of fresh flowers now resting before the bronze lares. You look at the small, dancing figures of your divine ancestors. Are they real? Powerful guardians, watching over you, or are they just symbols? objects of a tradition that you continue out of a lingering, irrational fear you no longer know, and you realize that your journey into the disturbing beliefs about the Roman soul has just revealed a new, unexplored territory, the vast and silent underworld of the common dead. Your friend Marcus leaves you with a mind full of elegant, rational arguments. For a time, his philosophical perspective holds sway. You try to see the world through his eyes. You tell yourself that the whispers were the wind, the shadow was a trick of the light, and the Lemuria ritual was a powerful act of self-hypnosis that calmed your own agitated mind. It is a comforting, modern, and sensible explanation, and it lasts until the next time you are alone in the great villa after nightfall. The house is quiet. True, the aggressive, terrifying phenomena have ceased, but the feeling of presence has not entirely vanished. It is a quiet, watchful stillness now, a house holding its breath. And the question your friend's visit raised continues to haunt you. What of the other souls, the ones with no grand tombs on the Appian Way? No philosophers to debate the nature of their existence? What of the souls of the servants, the slaves, the forgotten? You turn to the only expert you have, the old caretaker, Decimus. You ask him a question you had never thought to ask before. Decimus, you say, you told me the Lares are the spirits of our ancestors. What of your ancestors? Where do they rest? The old man looks at you, surprised by the question. They rest with the family, master, he says simply. As they did in life, so they do in death. They serve. He explains that for generations. The servants and favored slaves of the Vipsani family were not cast into unmarked pits. They were granted a proper burial, a place in the household's communal tomb, the columbarium. Their spirits are also part of the family's manes, he explains. But in their proper place, they are expected to continue their service in the afterlife, to attend to your ancestors in their great tomb, just as I attend to you in this great house. He lowers his voice, but the spirits of the common folk can be more easily troubled. Their lives on this earth were full of hardship. Their death sometimes came with grievances. An unhappy servant's ghost can be just as troublesome as an unhappy lord's. Your investigation into the Roman soul must now go deeper. You ask Decimus to take you to this other tomb. He leads you not far from your main family mausoleum on the Appian Way, but to a smaller, less conspicuous structure set back from the road. It is a simple, square building of brick and stone, with a single, heavy door. This is the columbarium. A name you know means dovetete or pigeon house. When Decimus opens the door, you understand why. The interior is not a single chamber, but a large room whose walls are honeycombed from floor to ceiling with hundreds of small, semicircular niches. Each niche is just large enough to hold a single terracotta or glass cinerary urn. Containing the ashes of the dead, it is a practical, space-saving, and strangely beautiful way to house the spirits of a great multitude. It's like a spooky, subterranean apartment building, where the rent is eternal and no one ever complains about the noise. You take a lamp and walk through the silent, orderly rows. This is the final resting place of generations of people who made your family's life of leisure possible. You see that even here, in this city of the dead. The social hierarchy is maintained. Some niches, at eye level, are larger, with more ornate marble plaques. Decimus points one out. My father, he says with a quiet pride. He was head servant of the villa for 40 years. The old master gave him a place of honor. Other niches are smaller, higher up, with simple, roughly carved stone markers. You spend hours in the columbarium, reading the epitaphs on the small marble plaques that seal the niches. They are a library of humble lives. To the sweet soul of Helena, weaver, who lived 24 years. Manius, the gardener, a good and faithful servant. For Felix, the cook, who now rests from his labors. The inscriptions speak of a genuine affection and a sense of shared household identity that transcends the brutal legal reality of master and slave. But Decimus also shows you the darker side of this history. He points to niches that are unmarked. These were the ones who were not favored, he whispers, or the ones who died in disgrace. A spirit with no name to be called upon during the rites? That is a spirit that is truly lost. That is a spirit that can easily become a lemur. He tells you stories. Folk legends from the servants' quarters that were never written down. A story of a stable boy who was cruelly beaten by a previous master and was believed to have cursed the family's horses from the grave, causing them to go lame. A tale of a handmaiden who died of a broken heart and whose weeping was sometimes still heard in the halls of the villa. You are seeing the complex truth that future historians will debate. The relationship between master and servant was not a simple one. It could hold genuine loyalty and affection, as evidenced by the care taken with this tomb, but it was also a relationship of absolute power and potential resentment. A power dynamic that people believed did not end with death. So in the afterlife, your ancestors get a private villa, and the servants get a small niche in a communal tomb. The class system, it appears, has a very persistent and depressing afterlife, moved by a new sense of duty that you did not know you had. You decide that your responsibility as paterfamilias extends to every soul who served your family, not just those of your own bloodline. You have Decimus help you. You bring fresh flowers and place them at the foot of the columbarium walls. You pour a libation of good wine at its entrance. And then, you perform a new kind of ritual, one born not of ancient tradition, but of your own dawning understanding. You take a lamp, and with Decimus at your side to read the names of those you cannot, you go from niche to niche, and you read the names aloud. Helena, weaver, may your spirit be at peace. Manius, gardener, may your rest be honored. Felix, cook, may your labors be over. You speak to them all, acknowledging their lives and their service. You are performing a long overdue act of recognition, of spiritual housekeeping. As you do, you feel the last of the oppressive. Watchful atmosphere that has clung to you since you arrived at the villa finally lift. You feel that you are not just appeasing individual spirits, but healing the spiritual fabric of the entire household, living and dead. You and Decimus leave the columbarium as the sun is setting. You feel a sense of completeness, of a great and necessary task finally performed. You have paid your respects to the great lords of your family in their grand mausoleum, and you have honored the humble servants in their quiet divatset. You now understand that a family, a household, is a complex organism. Its spiritual health depends on the well-being of all its parts. You cannot simply command the ghosts to leave. You must understand why they are restless. You must heal the grievances that bind them to this world. You return to the villa, and for the first time, it truly feels like your home. The air is clean and light. The silence is peaceful. But you know that this peace is a fragile thing. Born of your recent efforts, the neglect of generations has left the villa's spiritual foundations weak. You realize that performing individual rites is not enough to ensure a lasting peace. You must do something more fundamental. You must fully restore the Pax Deorum, the peace of the gods, to the house. You must become, in truth, the guardian of all your family's spirits. You return from the tombs on the Appian Way a changed man. The experience at the columbarium of acknowledging the humble spirits of your family's servants has completed a circuit in your understanding. You see now that the health of a household is not just about its living master, nor even its noble ancestors. It is a complex ecosystem of all the souls, living and dead, who have ever called it home. The whispers and cold spots were not separate hauntings. They were all symptoms of a single, deep-seated spiritual sickness caused by years of neglect. Your mission is no longer simply to survive the house. It is to heal it. You are the physician, and the ancient traditions Decimus has taught you are your medicine. You, the pragmatic former soldier. Now apply your logistical mind to this new, Spiritual campaign. You will not just appease the spirits, you will restore their world to its proper order. Your first project is the lararium. The quick cleaning you performed out of fear is not enough. This shrine is the heart of the home's spiritual life, and it must be made worthy. You summon skilled artisans from the nearby town. A stonemason repairs the crumbling niche. A painter, under Decimus's careful direction, restores the faded fresco on its back wall, the image of a great, coiled serpent, the symbol of the land's fertility and the genius loci, the spirit of the place itself. You have the small bronze statues of the two Lares and your great-uncle's genius taken to a metalsmith, who carefully cleans and polishes them until they gleam with their original luster. And you commission a new, small statue, a simple figure in a toga, to represent your own genius, your personal life spirit. When the shrine is fully restored, you place the figures within it, the two Lares, forever dancing on the edges. And in the center, the figure of your ancestor, with your own new statue standing respectfully beside it. Then, you reinstate the daily rites. This becomes the new rhythm of your life. Every morning, you approach the hearth, the center of the home, and cast a small pinch of salted flour into the embers for Vesta, goddess of the home and flame. Every evening, before your own meal, you approach the lararium. You place a small portion of your food, a piece of bread, some fruit, and a small cup of wine on the offering dish. You light a stick of incense, and in the fragrant smoke, you speak quietly to the spirits. You tell them of your day. You thank them for their protection. It is a simple daily conversation, an act of communion. Your daily schedule now includes make an offering to the pantry ghosts and have a quiet word with great-grandpa's statue. It's not the retirement you planned, but the house isn't trying to kill you anymore, which is a definite improvement. Your duties extend beyond the villa, to the tombs on the Appian Way. With Decimus's help, you create a family calendar, marking the birth and death days of your most important ancestors. On these days, you make the journey to the tomb and perform the proper memorial rites, ensuring the Mains know they are not forgotten. When the great public festivals of the dead arrive, you no longer see them as inconvenient or superstitious interruptions. You now understand their vital importance. In February, you observe the Parentalia, the 9-day festival for the benevolent ancestral spirits. You spend the days making offerings of flowers and food at both the great family mausoleum and the humble columbarium of the servants. It is a time of happy, respectful remembrance. Then, in May, come the 3 nights of the Lemuria. This time, you do not perform the rite in terror. You perform it with a calm, quiet authority. It is no longer a desperate exorcism. It is a preventative cleansing, a spiritual housekeeping. You walk barefoot through your now peaceful house. You cast the 9 black beans over your shoulder, and you clash the bronze plates. It is a ritual to gently but firmly show any wandering homeless spirits that this house is protected, that its own spirits are well cared for, and that they must seek shelter elsewhere. You learn there are 2 major ghost-related holidays. One is like a happy family reunion for your well-behaved ancestor ghost. The other is a spooky, house-cleaning ritual for the creepy, homeless ghosts. You have to mark your calendar carefully. You come to understand the deep wisdom behind the Roman way. Future historians will debate the emotional tone of your religion, whether it was one of joyful celebration or constant, fearful anxiety. You realize it is both. The Romans, you see, did not deny the existence of darkness, of chaos, of hungry ghosts. Instead, they created a system, a complex and demanding calendar of rituals and duties. To manage it, the purpose of the rite is not just to appease the gods, but to give the living a sense of order and control in a chaotic world. The rituals are a fortress built against the fear of the unknown, as you restore the spiritual health of the house. Its physical health seems to improve as well. You take a genuine pride in the restoration of the villa. You oversee the repairs to the roof. You have the gardens replanted. The house, which was once a place of dread, slowly becomes a place of light, of peace, of life. You have not just inherited a property, you have resurrected it. You, too, are transformed. The cynical, city-bred soldier and merchant is gone. You have become a true Roman paterfamilias, a man rooted in his land, his history, and his sacred duties. You have looked into the strange, superstitious heart of your own culture and found not madness, but a deep and complex wisdom. You came here to flip a house. You ended up becoming the full-time spiritual manager for several generations of demanding ghosts. It's a classic case of mission creep. One warm summer evening, you stand in the courtyard of your restored villa. The air is filled with the scent of jasmine and thyme from your gardens. A gentle lamplight glows from the windows. The house is quiet, but it is a warm, breathing silence. It is the silence of contentment. You look up at the stars, and you feel the presence of your ancestors around you. Not as a threat, but as a quiet, supportive strength. You have restored the Pax Deorum, the peace of the gods, to the Villa Vipsania. You are no longer just its owner. You are its guardian. You are the living link in the great chain. And you have finally, truly, come home. The years settle over the Villa Vipsania like a gentle, welcome snow. The frantic work of restoration, both physical and spiritual, gives way to a life of quiet, steady, and profound routine. You have become the master of the estate, not just in name, but in spirit. You are no longer the pragmatic, cynical man who arrived here all those years ago. The house has changed you as much as you have changed the house. Your life is now governed by the ancient Roman calendar, by the sacred duties that you once scorned. The daily offering at the Lararium is no longer a superstitious chore. It is the central, grounding moment of your day. It is a quiet conversation with your ancestors, a moment of thanks to the spirits that guard your home. The great festivals for the dead are no longer sources of terror, but times of solemn connection. You perform the rites of the parentalia with a deep and genuine reverence, and you perform the strange ritual of the Lemuria not with fear, but with the calm authority of a householder sweeping his home clean of dust. Your reputation grows in the surrounding countryside. The local farmers and villagers come to see you as a man of wisdom, a man who understands the old ways. They come to you for advice, a series of misfortunes in their own home, a strange sickness among their livestock. You do not offer them magic spells or charms. You offer them the simple wisdom you have learned. Have you been tending to your own household shrine? You ask them, have you made the proper offerings at your family graves? A spirit that is remembered and respected is a spirit that is at peace. One summer, many years after you first arrived, you receive a visitor from Rome. It is your old friend, Marcus. He is a famous philosopher now, his name known in the great libraries of the world. He has come to see you in your rustic retirement. He finds a man he barely recognizes. He finds a villa that is no longer a crumbling ruin, but a thriving, peaceful estate. Its olive groves tended, its walls strong. That evening, as you sit in the quiet courtyard, he looks at you with a fond, knowing smile. So, he says, it seems you have made your peace with your household ghosts. You smile back. I have learned that it is more important to make peace with one's duties than with one's ghosts. You reply, you have the old debate again, but the tone is different. It is a gentle, friendly sparring of two old men who have found their own separate paths to peace. Marcus tells you of his life of reason, of his philosophical discourses in the city. You tell him of your life of ritual, of your duties to the Lares and the Mains. You tell me the soul is just atoms, my friend. You say, pouring him another cup of wine. And perhaps it is, but I have found that these particular atoms get very grumpy if you don't leave them a glass of wine now and then. He laughs, but you see a new understanding in his eyes. He sees that you are not a man living in fear. You are a man living in a state of profound harmony with a world he has chosen to accept. You have adopted a grandnephew as your heir, a bright young man from another branch of the family, ensuring the Vipsani line at this villa will not die out again. Your most important task now is to teach him, to pass on the knowledge you have learned. You take him to the tombs, you show him how to clean the stones, how to pour the libations. You stand with him before the lararium and explain the names and the duties owed to each of the spirits. You are ensuring the chain of memory. The Sacra Familia will not be broken again. Not. You came to this place intending only to sell a pile of inconvenient, crumbling rocks. You ended up spending the rest of your life as the dedicated guardian of a large and demanding family of spirits. And you have found, against all odds, that it has been a good life. It has been a life of purpose. And so your story comes to its gentle end. You, the man who was once a stranger in his own ancestral home, have become its heart, its priest, its protector. You have discovered that the most disturbing beliefs about the soul are not necessarily about the dead, but about the duties of the living. And in embracing those duties, you have found not a burden, but a strange and lasting peace. The final image of you is of an old man. Your hair is white as the marble of a god's temple. Teaching your young heir how to light the small lamp before the household shrine. The flame catches, its warm, gentle light pushing back the shadows. It is a small act, a simple ritual, but it is a promise. A promise that the ancestors will be remembered. A promise that the house will be protected. A promise that the peace will hold. Let that peace now settle over you. The whispering of the lemures has long since faded, replaced by the soft rustle of olive leaves in the evening breeze. The cold spots in the great house have been warmed by the constant, steady flame of the hearth. The anxieties and fears of the ancient Roman soul have found their rest in the quiet order of ritual and remembrance. The story is over. The house is quiet. The spirits are at peace, and now, in the safety and comfort of your own quiet room, you can be too.